Namaskar, hello and a very warm welcome viewers. You're watching Bills and Insight, your one-stop destination for views, news and analysis of proposed legislations of India that have far-reaching implications and impact your life. I'm your host Kriti Mishra, and today the spotlight is on the High Court and Supreme Court Judges Salary and Conditions of Service Amendment Bill 2021. The bill seeks to amend the High Court Judges Salaries and Conditions of Service Act 1954 and the Supreme Court Judges Salaries and Conditions of Service Act 1958. These acts regulate the salaries and conditions of service of the judges of High Courts and the Supreme Court of India. And before the detailed analysis, let's take a look at the highlights of the bill. The bill seeks to bring clarity on when Supreme Court and High Court judges are entitled to an additional quantum of pension or family pension on attaining a certain age. The bill clarifies that the increase in pension of retired judges shall be implemented from the first day of the month in which they complete the age specified. The scale contains 5 age brackets with a minimum age of 80, 85, 90, 95 and 100 years, and the additional quantum increases with age from 20% to 100% of the pension or family pension. And to discuss the impact of this bill, I'm joined by a very illustrious panel of guests. Joining us through virtual platform, Mr. P. Wilson, member of the Upper House of Parliament from the DMK, and Mr. Kapil Sankla, Advocate, Supreme Court of India. I welcome both of you on Sunset TV and thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
And before we commence our discussion, let's take a look at how our parliamentarians debated this bill.
If some other system decides about salaries, there should be some automatic mechanism inbuilt where the government takes these decisions and does what is necessary for the judicial system.
That all the district courts of the entire India must be empowered with the power to exercise powers under Article 32 of our Constitution.
कृपया ऐसा करें कि जनता का विश्वास उनमें बना रहे। केवल जुडिशरी ही एक ऐसा विभाग रह गया है जिस पर जनता का पूरा भरोसा है।
ये एक्सप्लेनेटरी क्लोज जो लाया है, ये बेसिकली ये कहा गया है कि पेंशन 80 साल मतलब जब 80 साल क्रॉस हो जाएगा, जिस महीने में आप 80 साल क्रॉस हो जाएगा उसी महीने का पहले तारीख से आपको पेंशन मिलना शुरू हो जाएगा।
And Mr. Wilson, let me begin the program with you. And before we get into the specifics of the bill, why was this amendment required?
Yeah, this bill tends to amend 2 acts. One is High Court Judges Salaries and Conditions of Service Act 1954, and the other one is Supreme Court Judges Salaries and Conditions of Act 1958. Explanation to Section 17B of the High Court Judges Service and Conditions Act 1954, as well Section 16B explanation to Supreme Court Judges Salaries and Conditions of Service Act 1958 has been introduced. The bill seeks to achieve the clarity on when the Supreme Court and High Court judges are entitled to additional quantum of pension. Actually, what happened is the Guwahati High Court in a judgment has said that the pension should be calculated from the first day of the beginning of the 80th year of the retired judge, that is after completing 79 years, while the present bill tends to clarify that the revision is reckoned from the first day of the month in which the pensioner or the family pensioner completes the age of 80 years. It's actually from 80 years, then 85 years, 90 years, 95 years, and 100 years. So that's how whether it is the first day after the completion of 79 years or the first day of that month after the completion of that particular years. If it is the 80th years, after completion of the 80th years. If it is 85th year, then after completion of 85th year. So this clarification the bill seeks to make, and the bill effectively removes the basis of the judgment, but it tends to give a correct interpretation as to how the pension has to be calculated. So In fact, I, on behalf of my party, had welcomed this bill. And of course, because this set writes what exactly is a correct interpretation. So that is how the bill was moved and it was passed.
All right, Mr. Sankla, your opening thoughts on the impact of the bill, on the provisions of the bill.
Mr. Wilson is absolutely right. There's nothing major that has come into play, but there is some kind of regulation, some kind of structure that has been put in place. You see, at one hand, it regulates the salaries and conditions of service of judges of the High Court and Supreme Court. It also brings in its ambit the pensions pertaining to retired judges of the Supreme Court, High Court, their family members. And as rightly pointed out by Mr. Wilson, that what it does is it structures it into different scales. So the scale is minimum age of 80 years, 85, 90, 95 years, and 100 years. And the quantum is from 20% all the way to 100%. And also the additional pensions that would be granted to the family members. It also regulates from which period it will be regulated. The minimum age under the concerned age bracket would be the first day of the month. It is more of a clarificatory nature, bringing the ambit to the legislature from the judiciary. So that's the sum and substance of the crux is this, the 5 brackets and from which date they would be entitled to the benefits.
All right, so that's the crux of the bill. And now let's expand the scope of the debate. Mr. Wilson, replying to the debate on the bill in the Rajya Sabha, Union Minister for Law and Justice said that the government will leave no stone unturned in strengthening the judicial system of the country. He informed that the government has also approved the centrally sponsored scheme for development of infrastructure facilities for judiciary. How do you view these steps taken by the government?
Yeah, naturally, judiciary is lacking this infrastructure facilities. In fact, our Honorable Chief Justice of India in a recent meeting has also said that let us have a national infrastructure, judicial infrastructure for judiciary alone, so that the infrastructures across the country in all the courts, starting from the lower court, then up to the high court, at all levels, the infrastructure has to be increased. So therefore, in my opinion, that it's high time that the government should think of bringing these types of independent autonomous bodies, entrust them with ample funds, ample powers, and so that the infrastructure can be upgraded in all the courts. So that's how the government has to move in that forward.
All right, Mr. Sankla, do you agree with Mr. Wilson?
See, I agree with Mr. Wilson, but I have something more to add on.
Please go ahead,
sir. Let's talk about Delhi, for example. When you talk about infrastructure, are you talking about physical brick and mortar courts? Or are you talking about putting systems online, making everybody, have an access to the court and the proceedings, probably putting the proceedings of the court online, having something like Court TV that anybody, even you, me, anybody at all, can log in and see any court proceedings going on, making people answerable, making every stakeholder answerable. I think that is the way forward. That you don't keep things under closed doors, because when things are under closed doors, they're bound to be misunderstandings and misuse. Now, as far as brick and mortar is concerned, Delhi has 6, 7 district courts. Huge infrastructure is being used. There have been attacks in Rohini. There have been issues in Karkaduma. There was a blast in Rohini. We know that there were some miscreants who entered with kattas and weapons, etc. Now, that would happen when you spread things too thin. Now, instead of that, there are 2 things. One, Corona, this unfortunate pandemic has shown us that, we can actually survive online. Judiciary can survive online and do wonderful work. I think we are able to do much more. And I think the poor and the downtrodden have better access, because lawyers can do more matters sitting online than running between courts physically. And that's also happened, as I said, because, we've spread ourselves too thin. Just talking about Delhi, for example, instead of so many district courts, if we had one centralized district court, completely protected, security-wise, etc., we wouldn't have these issues where probably a court sitting in Karkaduma is not working as much as a court sitting in in Tisazari or the security being lax in Rohini or some other issue like that, if we can provide this service online rather than a strict brick and mortar store, so to say, I think it becomes more accessible, it becomes cheaper, and you probably have better lawyers representing otherwise those category of people who probably might not be able to afford lawyers like Mr. Wilson, etc. That's my two bit about the understanding of what the government should do.
All right, so you're talking about digital interventions, and I'll come back to the bill. Mr. Wilson, while this bill was debated in Parliament, members also suggested that instead of bringing a bill regarding salary, there should be an automatic online system through which such issues can be taken up. Your thoughts on that, sir?
I think Yasni was talking about the online, and my learned friend Mr. Kabil was also emphasizing on much on that. What he says is, beyond the brick, you have to see the development is not confined, within the four walls, physically inside a court, but it should go virtually also. That is what he was saying. So to that extent, if you see, in fact, our standing committee, I'm a member of a parliamentary standing committee of law and justice. We had given a report which was presented to the Parliament in March 2021, where we had suggested that the online virtual hearings should go on. At least if you can make it also a permanent for certain categories of cases also. That is what we have suggested, because now we have some teething problems also, and many advocates are not accepting or adapting to this online system. They give resistance to that online system. But the Supreme Court was kind enough to have a hybrid hearing, then first a virtual court hearing, absolute virtual hearing, then a hybrid hearing. Then sometimes there were pressure, then they had resorted to physical hearing. Now because of the COVID, again it has come. So they have come back to the full virtual court hearing. So what Mr. Kabil suggested is a good suggestion. In fact, in our committee, we have said, so far as the tribunals are concerned, why don't you convert fully into a virtual courts like income tax appellate tribunals, PMLA courts, and many other tribunals? Why should one come all the way along to Delhi, to appear in a case? So they can sit in that their own states or their own places where they are, and they can make their submissions. It doesn't require any, physical appearances.
Absolutely, sir. That is very important for ensuring access to justice. Also, Mr. Wilson, I remember when this bill was being debated, several members raised the issue of big pendency of cases in various courts, and that various posts of judges are also lying vacant in different courts, due to which there are pendency of cases. We understand there is a need of social and economic justice as well as speedy clearances of cases pending at different levels. What is the way ahead, sir?
Yes. Out of 1,098, High Court judges post, 402 vacancies are there. Virtually, 50% of vacancies are there. And there are 57 lakhs of cases pending before various high courts. And in Supreme Court, about 75,000 cases are pending. So this one is the judge and the population ratio. If you see, it's high.
Yes.
If you see India, it is 21 judges per million. In so far as UK is concerned, it is 51, and US is concerned, it's 107. And as I told you that the number of vacancies are high, so therefore the priority has to be given to fill in the vacancies as early as possible. And I also in my debate I emphasized much on increasing the age of the retirement of judges of the High Court from 62 to 65. There is a clear disparity of retirement age of judges of High Court and Supreme Court. In Supreme Court, you have the retirement age as 65 years.
Yes.
There is no justification for this disparity. A same person who is in High Court, if he is elevated to Supreme Court, he will get an extended term of another 3 years. So if he is in High Court, he has to necessarily retire at 62 years. Why this disparity? Same person. And the longevity and the life span of a person, everyone knows, has increased. So therefore, why I'm emphasizing much on this increase of age, even for Supreme Court judges also, I suggested that it can be increased to from 65 years to 70 years. I said because number one is their experience, in this judiciary, it can be utilized. All their, whatever they have done with a lot of cases and the experience they have gained certainly is going to help the litigants in deciding the cases. So this is my first suggestions. And number two is the retiring age is very less. If you see 62 years is very less. So what happens ultimately is when they retire, unless you get arbitrations or get into some commissions or some tribunals, and the protection that is given to them by pay, and the pension which they get after the retirement is not much. So they can be utilized at least to 65 years in case of High Court judges and 70 years in so far as the Supreme Court judges are concerned. And then the third suggestion was that as I suggested, the valuable experience that can be utilized, and that experience is going to really help us. So I suggested that why this 62 to 65 should not be increased, and from 65 to 70 should not be increased. And another suggestion was that this declining representation insofar as the higher judiciary is concerned. There is a diversity deficit insofar as the judges of the Supreme Court is concerned. I could see that, sorry to say that because I had a protection in the parliament, and the same protection would be available for me also, because this I have to say, because I am a parliamentarian, that variety of people are not seen in the bench. So this one homogeneous class of judges, people are afraid that whether they will be equipped to decide about their diversity issues relating to the religion, culture, and other things. So I suggested that let the bench have a diversity of judges from different social groups. The social justice be followed. Then the women should be there. The minority should be there. So that, because after all, it is a face of India. I also said
Yes, sir.
that why don't you establish a permanent regional benches of Supreme Court, so that,
Yes, sir.
the Supreme Court benches can be there, one in South, one in North, and one in, the eastern side and western side, Bombay, Mumbai, Chennai, then Kolkata and Delhi. And the constitutional bench, the existing bench, Supreme Court can be a constitutional bench. So for every matters, one need not come all the way. If you see the number of cases,
Yes, sir.
filed in Supreme Court, the nearest states, the filing of cases is more. Whereas states like Tamil Nadu, the contribution is only 1%. So this
All right,
was my
sir. So you've been
suggestion, during
underscoring
the
the need of regional benches, and also two very important points that you made. A, about increasing the retirement age of judges, and also the disparity between the age bracket of High Court judges and the Supreme Court judges. Mr. Sankla, your take on that?
Well, I agree on the first part as far as increasing the age, retirement age of judges is concerned. Do you know what a retired High Court or a Supreme Court judge does? The moment he's retired, he becomes an arbitrator and handles a multi-billion-dollar arbitration. So the mental faculties cannot be questioned. They're sharp as ever, sharper so. Their experiences with them. So why ask them to retire mandatorily? I mean, if they're only going to handle a tribunal or a commission or an arbitration, and happily so, then why not avail of their services and their experience and their knowledge? I think it makes more sense. That is one. The second aspect was, Mr. Wilson said that there was resistance from lawyers as far as online or virtual system is concerned. Well, the hybrid system works. And the resistance was because of the complications that this online system brought in, because of the Inspector Raj in the administration of the processes. You see what happens, I'll give you an example. For example, It's a strange thing. I'm doing a bail matter in Mumbai. I can file the bail, I can argue, but I can't get certified copy. So therefore, I would of course have a problem with virtual or hybrid system. In NCLT, if I have to file something, I can file it online, but my matter will only be heard if I go there and file a physical copy. That does not really make sense, but that's the way the system works. So I would of course have a problem because it's just complicated my life. But as far as access to the service of law is concerned, it is much better for a litigant if the matter is done virtually, hybrid system. I mean, you can categorize and differentiate the kind of matters that require physical appearance and non-physical appearance. For example, a bail matter or a stay matter or an interim matter or a discretionary matter or a final argument matter might require physical appearance because you need a connect between the bench and the bar. But where you're talking about a normal administration of case, whether the file is complete or not, evidence is complete or not, whether the filing has been done or not, all of that could be done virtually. I mean, you really don't need to go to the court for that, do you now? That's important. The second aspect is, as far as the vacancies is concerned, yes, you increase the number, but more importantly, you digitalize the system. I don't know why we are so afraid of computers. Why should there actually be a hearing, a challan code, that you go to the court to pay your challan, or challans in income tax, or even GST? You can do that online. It's like a structure. You just have to tick the right boxes, plead guilty, pay the fine, be over with it. It's only when you want to go to the court that you actually insist that you need a physical hearing. But you really don't need a physical hearing for all of these things. I mean, this just makes the system go slower. You just need more people. The system becomes human heavy. You don't need that.
We saw differences of opinion there, but of course we do agree that digital transformation is required, and we do hope that the recommendations of the Parliamentary Standing Committee would be taken note of. On that note, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Wilson and Mr. Sankla. Next week, we'll return with incisive analysis of another important bill. Till then, take care and stay tuned to Sunset TV. Namaskar.